Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
$11 on a Wednesday, and it is time for the Lock Shop. Thank you very much for being here. Hus is going to be by in just a moment. I want to get him. I want to get his thoughts on my team that I just drafted. If you were watching us a little bit earlier on with the hangout, I like the group that I put together. Don't have that sympathy vote coming in, but we'll see how it plays out when it's all said and done. Surveyor Brett, the only true lock in this world is a Wannick screwing up the draft as commish. That would be, we'll have to get that next time available on Coolbet and just make sure all of us aren't allowed to bet on it and then other people can bet on it. That would be fine. Coach C says, who's worse, Bettman or a Wannick? It's our first draft here. The guy was sitting on the floor trying to commish this thing, so I think you got to give him a little bit of a leeway there and be watching for it. We'll obviously have that out from the Edmonton Sports Talk Twitter account a little bit later on. If you're just listening to the Lock Shop podcast when it goes up later, we did do an Edmonton Sports Talk draft on the Hangout. That'll be available on the Hangout podcast, and make sure you subscribe to that as well. One is in and says, Gusty Dusty looking like a floating head and hands with the flannel mixing in with the background. Are we getting green screen tech at EST? Eventually we could do green screen tech, but I don't think we have that available just yet. Haas, we're coming in hot, buddy.
Green screen.
Yeah, we don't have the green screen yet, but we are coming in fresh off our first Edmonton Sports Talk draft, buddy, and it went off the rails. We just did it for the last 2 hours. We were drafting TV and movie coaches. Ended up being significant controversy. Commissioner Wannick removed one of Eric's picks because he drafted a guy who had no coaching background, which led to people thinking that there's going to be a sympathy vote for Eric. It was a real good time, man. You would appreciate watching that.
I gotta say, the rivalry between Eric and Commissioner Iwanek in the Nielsen Show drafts it's always entertaining, one way or the other, just regardless of which side of the argument that you're on. It is always hilarious. Who was the first pick? Who was the first?
Eric had the first. Eric had the first pick. Took Reg Dunlop. I had second pick. Here, let me lay it out for you. We had to draft a bunch of different categories. We had 5 open categories, and then we had to draft a coach speech from a movie or TV, a hockey coach, a football coach, a basketball coach, a baseball coach, an assistant coach, and a villain coach, like a bad guy. And Eric took Dunlop first. Hockey category was pretty weak, so I moved next. I took Gordon Bombay, second overall from the Mighty Ducks, put him into my hockey category. I think it gives me a significant advantage in the hockey category. And then it just it got real good from there, man. It was it was really fun. I got Mr. Miyagi, Ted Lasso, Mick from Rocky, Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball, right? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. I put together a nice little list here. So we'll see how the vote plays out. But real good controversy from the first EST draft, as expected. We had a half-hour pre-draft show, where Maddie interviewed each of us draftees individually for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then, now that we have all the time in the world, we're like, let's just do it up. So they're just going to get better and better. But this was a good way to start, man.
You know what? I think back to, we did that first draft back on our old show, very early into the pandemic. It was it was when everyone was freaking out about buying all the toilet paper.
Yeah.
And it was the quarantine grocery draft. And honestly, I remember Rick thinking it was the dumbest idea. And I'm like, dude, we've got nothing else to do. Let's just do this. It'll be funny. More reaction to that show than almost anything we did in 10 years at TSN.
I know.
And then you guys started it up and have really taken it to another level. And I must be. Has anyone ever else come in and won a Nielsen Show draft from outside of, has there ever been? I won the Christmas movie draft, and I don't watch movies. I would have thought I would have had a better chance in the wrestling draft or the fast food one. No, did not get one, the Christmas movie. But has there ever been a guest winner before?
On the phone, no. In studio, yes, obviously. We've had some people roll in studio and win. But over the phone, I think you're the only one who's ever came away a victor, Hus. And we're already talking about getting if we can get Nielsen Show drafts brought to you by WestJet, and we fly you out here, and then you can do Winnipeg Sports Talk in the studio here in our backup studio. Like that would be quite the scene, man. You would not.
You know what? If any WestJet people are watching right now, that we definitely need to do something on that. And we don't have to deal with with the head office and a bunch of people telling us what we have to do now. We can make something that works for you.
Yeah.
And a little bit of back and forth between Edmonton and Winnipeg, a very common route of WestJet right now. It makes too much sense. So that's on the list for 2024 between Winnipeg Sports Talk and Edmonton Sports Talk. That's for sure.
All right, got a text from Jake. Says Ev Dog is on duty today, so if we want any parlays tonight, just mention him. He'll be tuning in on the show, so we'll take a look at that. How last night, man, Hus, you're on fire. What is it? 7 days in a row, like going back to your week and then to start this week, 7 straight lock shot play of the days.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to look back. I can't remember whether I won it on like the Friday or the Thursday of my previous week, but yeah, 5-0 2 weeks ago and 2-0. And went with the big, like plus 135 is about as big as you'll get on a daily pick, but just straight up money line winner. Kings got it done last night. I had a great day. So I had that. I took your advice and parlayed the Canucks with the King.
Beautiful.
So that one came in at, I think, plus 264 or something like that. Got my Wemby over 1.5 3-pointers.
I got my Wemby too, over 6.5 boards.
So, by the way, we'll get to that in a second. The only thing that I didn't win on is the freaking World Series, and I just want this thing to be over right now so I can't be on the wrong side of these damn baseball games anymore. That was
yeah.
I mean, I basically watched the hockey last night. That thing was a runaway early on.
Our cool bet hotline of the day, though, was Seager over 1.5 total bases. So that hit 2 yesterday. So that was nice. Now, with that being said, Mr. Lean was on Arizona, and that backfired. So that one didn't hit. But yeah, overall, I think a pretty good day.
I'll blame it on Mr. Lean then, the D-backs pick last night. I will take no responsibility for it, just for the winners. Just quickly, did you see the end of the Spurs-Suns game?
I did. So I woke up this morning and I hop on Twitter and they're like, you won't believe the ending to this game. And I was like, all right. So I saw them shoot the 3. And I was like, oh, he's going to hit this 3 and get fouled and then go to the free throw line and win the game. And that is a crazy ending. So he misses the 3. They put back the rebound, down by 2, inbound it to KD, just has it stripped away from him, just takes the ball away from him and goes in and lays it in for the winner. That was absolutely phenomenal finish to that basketball game last night.
No, it was, and I can't remember what the odds were, but the Suns obviously were huge favorites. A Spurs money line bet probably would have been pushing 3-1 last night. So to do it in that fashion was absolutely amazing. But it was a kind of a quieter night last night. We made the most of it, but we've got plenty to get to tonight. A pretty nice slate in the National Hockey League, another World Series game, and so I guess we have four games tonight in the NHL, which was double what we had last night, and then a massive slate tomorrow.
What do you make of the Canucks, Hus? I do want to stick with that, lads. Like, by the way, great call on the Kings. I loved seeing people like in Toronto. I think I saw Dangle and a bunch of guys who were like, this is one of the most piss-poor efforts we've seen from the Toronto Maple Leafs in ages. Like, everybody was in full, and I was just sitting back. I was like, man, Hus called this spot on the lock shop today. Like, it was so well done on that. But then, like, the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson's having a phenomenal season. Quinn Hughes is having a phenomenal season. JT Miller gets into it with his coach a bit last night. Taka puts him in his spot and benches him, which I absolutely love to see. And he probably needs to slap that guy around a little bit. They're down after a couple of weak goals from Demko, and they just kind of powered their way back. They've got points in, 7 of 10 so far? No, 8 of, 6 of 8? 7 of 9 they've got points in so far this season. Vancouver looks like a different team this year.
Yeah, 6-2-1 on the season. They're 3-0-1 at home. They've got a goal differential of plus 15, which is only one behind the Vegas Golden Knights, who are 9-0-1 in their first 10 games. listen, it's been a great start. Tocchet deserves a lot of credit. And it was funny. I mean, JT Miller takes these bad penalties, gets his ass stapled to the bench. And who scores the insurance goal in the third period? JT Miller. So Tocchet is one of those guys. I mean, listen, I don't know enough about his coaching style. I don't pay enough attention to the minutia on a daily basis of the Canucks. But when you have a team that has been as underwhelming as they have been for a number of years, and you get a guy that comes in with the pedigree and the experience as a player of Rick Tocchet, listen, you have to cover all the other bases and have the systems and know exactly what you're doing. But just from a straight up leader in the room, a guy that will drag his players into battle, he's doing exactly that. And listen, Vancouver fans are weird to begin with. I mean, it's sort of like they don't even know how to handle this right now because they have always seemed to be most happy in the most miserable times. I mean, there's so much negativity around there. It seems like it's done a complete 180 right now. And I got to tell you, there was a couple people, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was my buddy Chris Meany that had a dark horse pick on Elias to be the MVP. Listen, obviously we know if McDavid is healthy for the entire season, does McDavid things, he's probably going to win it. But there's always a chance that he gets hurt, which he already has, although it was a very brief period of time. The Oilers haven't been playing very well at all. Like Elias Pettersson is a true superstar in this league right now. He's playing like it. And I got to tell you, if you're a Canuck fan and one that actually wants them to win, as opposed to just, being pumped that you can complain 24/7 about the club, you got to be in a pretty good spot right now because they are the real deal. And listen, I kind of thought that it might have been a mirage right off the bat. I mean, the 8-1 win on opening night against the Oilers and then coming right back with the win on the road. We're like, okay, well, let's see how this lasts. If anything, they've been building off it right now. And they do have some talented young players. They got a coach that's getting the most out of them right now. And the Canucks, with this great start, I think have firmly put themselves in a position to be one of those teams. I know there's a lot of hockey left to play to go from outside to inside of the playoff line. And, it certainly puts pressure on teams like the Oilers, on teams like the Kraken, and of course the Calgary Flames who want to be there that haven't had great starts, knowing that you've got the LA Kings who are good. They're probably going to be there. You got the Vegas Golden Knights who are going to be there at the end of the season. And if the Canucks solidify their spot in the top three, these other teams are basically chasing wild cards right now. Again, first 10 games of the season, all that. But we know how important a good start is, especially for teams that sucked in previous years, and the Vancouver Canucks were one of those teams.
They've certainly done a fair amount of sucking. Right now, the Calgary Flames are taking up that mantle, and the Oilers only have 2 wins on the season as well. Richard Croft in the Nasty Chat here, and of course, if you are listening live right now to the Lock Shop, you can text us 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Richard says, "How about total goals, runs, and basketball points?" Set it over 680, and it comes in at 679 last night.
Again?
And then he says, the night before it was 3 shy. It was actually 2 shy, I think, the night before. He says the Cool Bet boys know their stuff. I didn't even know they ran that out there again last night. Must have been on the exclusive tab, and I didn't see it. But I guess the number was set at 680, and it came in at 679, which is, at that point, I start to think whoever's setting these odds can see into the future, Hus. That's the only thing I can think of at that point. Because that's insane.
They're on another level when it comes to setting these lines. And I did not know that. Shout out to Richard for doing the math on that one.
4 games tonight in the NHL, as you mentioned. We're just kind of talking hockey. We might as well kind of take a look at this. Let me take a quick rip through these games for you. I know somebody was in the Nasty Chat there saying, hey, if I was going to put together a 4-gamer tonight in the NHL, what would you guys suggest? So we'll take a quick peek at these games. The Philadelphia Flyers at home, a slight -115 favorites over the Buffalo Sabres. The Calgary Flames at home, +114 dogs. Dallas on the road is the moneyline favorite there, -135. The Blues, +185 dogs on the road in Colorado against the Avalanche. And the Arizona Coyotes at -134 on the road against the Ducks, who are the +115 home dogs. Got totals of 6.5 in all or 3 of the 4 games. The only game that's less than 6.5, Dallas and Calgary. That total right now is set at 6. Hus, that's what we're looking at. What are you liking?
Well, and I think I'll probably stay on the ice tonight with the daily pick. Starting it off, I think I like Buffalo. And again, we've talked about Philly at home so far this year. And we talked about those 3 games where we were thinking, okay, these teams are going to come in and roll them. Here's the difference in just the way I look at this game right now. The Sabres find themselves tonight, going into their 10th game of the season at 4-5, which has them in last place in the Atlantic Division. I mean, the Bruins are 8-0-1. They've got 17 points. The Wings have had a real nice start. They're at 13. The Habs somehow are at 12. Tampa and Toronto are at 11, and then 9-8. Like it is so competitive in that division, and they have had an underwhelming start. They're 1-2 on the road right now. I just think that Buffalo realizes the situation that they're in, and they go in and play a game with a lot more intensity, frankly, than some of the other teams that have gone into Philly and lost so far this season. Like, I'll give Torts and his gang credit. They're 4-1 through their first 9 games, and they have those 3 big wins at home against teams. I think, what was it? Edmonton, it was Minnesota, it was Vancouver. All 3 good teams that are far better than Philly on paper that they've got it done. This isn't as big a mismatch right now, and the Sabres are, in fact, an underdog. But I'm really feeling that the Sabres go in and play this game with a level of desperation that, would feel like it's later on in the season, because they can't get too far behind right now. And this is a game, certainly, when you look at their schedule, it's probably a lot more winnable than some of the other ones. So I love Buffalo at -102. And then let's talk about the Calgary Flames here for a minute, Dusty. I mean, the Flames are only ahead of the San Jose Sharks right now. They're 2-6-1, and one of those wins was robbery of the Winnipeg Jets in that game I was at in the first game of the regular season. Like, literally, they've lost 5 in a row. They've got 2 wins in the season. I can't remember their other win, but they got very fortunate to win in the fashion that they did in game number 1. And then on the other side, the Dallas Stars have only played 7 games. They're 5-1-1. They look like a team that's a legit challenge for the Colorado Avalanche right now.
Yeah, their only regulation loss was to Toronto, and then they lost to Vegas in a shootout. That's it. Only blemishes on their record so far.
This is a tough spot for Calgary. I mean, there's nothing that I've seen from the Calgary Flames that would give me confidence to back them as a home dog tonight.
The only thing I would ask us is, why is Dallas only a -134 favorite?
Well,
against the Calgary team that's garbage. I
think we might need to bet that now, because we asked the same thing about Vancouver last night, if you recall.
Yeah.
On the lock shop. Hey, why are they? This feels like a rat line. It's only -131. Well, by the time that game went off, it was -155. So whether people were listening to us or just looking like, how in the world is Vancouver the way they're playing? Maybe people haven't been believers. The bettors were last night, and they got taken care of when they backed it right now. I'll bet that game is more like -145 by the time it goes off tonight. So if you like Dallas, I think now is the time to get in on it. To me, this Blues Avalanche game, I guess if you wanted to throw in, maybe you jump on a puck line. I'd never really like adding -220 teams to parlays. It just seems that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And listen, we saw St. Louis here last week. They're not in the class of the Colorado Avalanche. So the Avalanche should be big favorites. And then the Ducks and the Coyotes tonight. Listen, the Coyotes are a way better team than Anaheim right now. And I actually think that there's some good value at -134 on the Coyotes right now. So I think if I'm looking at it, the 3 teams that I'm looking for, all ironically visitors, Buffalo is a slight underdog, and Dallas and Arizona at -134. And I think both of those -134 favorites I'll probably try and get in on before WST, because I have a feeling those lines might move in towards the favorites and a bigger number.
I put in a little 2-gamer here that got up to +204. That would be Dallas on the money line, Colorado in regulation against St. Louis. That'll get you to plus 204. St. Louis is coming in after getting pumped by Vancouver 5-0. Prior to that, they shut out the Flames. As we told you, the Flames suck. They haven't scored an even strength goal in their last 3 games, including being shut out to the St. Louis Blues. Prior to that, they got doubled up by the Jets. They did beat Pittsburgh 4-2. Pittsburgh's been a train wreck to start the year. And then they lost to Arizona, beat Seattle, lost to Dallas in the early stages of the season. So I do like – now starting goalies tonight, let me just take a quick look here. I'll run you through the starting goalies, what we got so far. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, UPL. He is confirmed for Buffalo. Carter Hart will go to Philly. Hus, we brought up Philly, was it Monday with Patty, and we said, stay away from the Philadelphia Flyers. I just have to remind you about that as you get on Buffalo here, because I was up. What was it? What was the game? I think I ended up getting it right, I think, because was it Minnesota Philly? Was that earlier in the week?
That
was that the
Monday, one? No, it was Carolina.
Carolina Philly, and Carolina scored late, I think, in that one to win it, but they won it in regulation.
3-2.
Yeah,
3-2.
Yeah, they won that one in regulation. So
hey, this Buffalo game isn't going to be easy. I mean, and I think the odds makers probably have it right based on what we've seen so far this year. I just think Buffalo has a lot more to give. I think they haven't had a good start. I think this is a huge game for them, and I think we'll see the some of the best of the Buffalo Sabres tonight. So that's sort of why I'm leaning towards the Sabres for this pick tonight.
Jake Ottinger is confirmed to start for Dallas tonight. Markstrom labeled as likely. Dallas is here in Edmonton tomorrow after this one. Ottinger confirmed to play there tonight, so we'll get into that a little bit on the oil stream coming up here at noon today. Prosvetov is going to start for Colorado. Jordan Binnington unconfirmed at this point for St. Louis. Vejmelka starts for the Coyotes tonight in that game against the Ducks, and Lucas Dostal is unconfirmed at this point. I think I see Mark in the Nasty Chat saying, how in the world is Dostal 4-1? I can't see. I got a stupid heart on the page here. Let me try to bump it up so I can see.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, 4-1.
I'll find out from Remus. We had that on our chat too, and it was very annoying. There is a way you can take that off. I'll find that out. So
have him send it over, because I was just like, damn it, this every time I can't read that most recent comment. So there's your starting goalies for tonight. And a couple of options for you. Hus laid out some games that he likes. I'm on Dallas money line and Colorado in regulation. It's plus 204, which is a number that I think I can definitely work with tonight.
I see Jake popped in the chat. No more picking against my teams on the play. When I texted him, I'm like, heads up, you're not going to like this pick tonight. That was from yesterday. And here's just one other thing on Buffalo. Like, they've been playing a lot better as of late. They shut out the Avalanche at home in their last game. Now, sometimes you have great performances like that and then fall back a little bit. As I say, I think there is a sense of urgency in Buffalo that is unlike most other markets in the league with that team. They need to build off that win. And I don't know, I'm optimistic that they do tonight. And even the game before, they went toe-to-toe with the Devils in Jersey, a very good team, and ended up losing 5-4. So that's sort of where I'm at. What do you think of, like, are you in on Buffalo, and what do you think of Dallas and Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres. I really like Buffalo. I like them in that spot tonight. I like them at the minus 102. I don't know, the Ducks. I'm not as in, like, if we were to put together like a 3-gamer, I think I'd rather have Colorado in regulation at basically the exact same number as the Coyotes going into Anaheim, and then maybe Dallas and Buffalo. Anaheim's been a little bit better than I thought they've been so far this season. So I'm a little torn on that one, but
well, you know what? That's a good point. And maybe they left all their goals at home. Well, they did put up 8 on the Blackhawks on Monday night.
Yeah, and the Ducks have somehow won 4 in a row. I don't know what that means. That might be their best stretch of the year, and they go back into a full-blown tailspin. But Anaheim's last 4 games have been 4-3 over Pittsburgh, 7-4 over Philly, 4-3 over Boston, and 3-2 over Anaheim. So
all on the road, too. A 4-0 road trip for the Ducks.
Yeah. Now, you can look at the spot that they're coming home from a four-game trip, right? Like, we could use that logic here to to get on the Coyotes if we want.
Well, you know what? Let's see here. Okay, if we take out the Coyotes and we put in the Avalanche in regulation, you're right. It's the exact same number. It basically doesn't move at all.
Yeah.
So what about this for a little partner parlay? Buffalo money line -102, Dallas money line -134, and the Avs in regulation -135.
I like that. Let's do that. Ev Dog, if you're watching, one more time. Dallas money line, Colorado in reg, Sabres
and
money
Buffalo
line.
money line. It's +502 when we put it into the old computer. So we should get a nice number like that. Keep your eyes on the Cool Bet exclusives, gang, and we'll try and get that one up for you in the next little bit. The Cool Bet boys are on it. Hey, before we move over and talk some football and a couple other things,
get to some hoops, some hardcore here.
A couple things coming out of hockey today. First of all, Nicholas Backstrom stepping away from the team. Been a tough start for Washington. It's been a very tough start for him. I think there's some health concerns and really not sure whether this is the first step heading into retirement or whether he comes back. But I was just looking at an interview with TJ Oshie, a pretty emotional Caps locker room today with a guy that has been a mainstay there for more than a decade, no longer with the club. But the biggest news, the Ottawa Senators got clipped a first-round pick for the Dadonov trade disaster. And Vegas was always very adamant that this was not on them. And I think that it was important for them to be vindicated throughout their peers in the National Hockey League. But, man, the Senators just get their new owner to come in. It's all good. And then, boom, either 2024, 2025, or 2026, the Sens will lose a first-round selection in relation to the Dadonov trade. And I know there's all sorts of tweets out, about they did nothing to the Blackhawks for the sexual assault scandal. And listen, I guess if you want to compare those things, you can certainly.
I mean, they're uncomparable. I mean, these are two different, like a trade compared to what the Hawks. I mean, because should the NHL have punished the Chicago Blackhawks heavier? Of course they should have. But I mean, I don't think these two incidents are comparable.
Well, no, for this, I mean, they are very different. And I mean, they're being adjudicated and treated very differently, obviously the Blackhawks thing, it was big fines, but it wasn't picks. But this is, I mean, for a team in Ottawa's situation that's kind of rebuilding, and I guess they're lucky that this didn't happen earlier because they've got a lot of these first round picks that are in the hopper, if you will. But that is a real significant penalty. I'll be honest. I was stunned to hear that it was a first-round pick, considering what we're talking about of the no trade. But puts a lot of pressure. And I just think about what the reaction would be in Winnipeg or in Edmonton if a management blunder basically just cost a team a first-round pick.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be savage.
Yeah, and it will be in Ottawa too. I mean, they're getting hit because they didn't fill a team in on a no trade list. Like that's a tough way to lose a first rounder, man. But you're right. I mean, things looked like it was going up for Ottawa, and then you get the Pinto suspension. Now you get this pick taken away. Hard times to be an Ottawa Senators fan. I'm sure of that. If we do have any Sens fans listening across the country or in the nasty chat here, feel free to chime in 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Coach C is in and says, Oilers get picks taken away from them all the time for no reason. So they lost some with coaches and things in the past. But Hus, let's thought it was a busy night in the NBA. And then we'll get to a little bit of World Series stuff. We did take a look at NFL futures yesterday, but we never actually got into any of the lines that we think we should hop on early in the year. So we can definitely hit on that in the lock shop today. Fantasy Football 5 coming up. Then Hus will have Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'll be hopping on the oil stream with Tommy Gazzola. Where are you looking at tonight, Hus? Is there anything that jumps off the page? I obviously got my focus a little bit on the Lakers and Clippers game tonight. That'll be the latest game of them all, or one of the late games on the sked. But what's jumping off the page?
Is Harden going to be in with his new team?
I was trying to find that out right now. If anybody knows, let us know, because
I never bet on the Clippers because I never know who the hell's going to be playing. And that's a big thing about the NBA. I mean, you sort of look at these numbers and go, oh, I think this is a pretty good line. I'll jump in on it. And then you realize, oh, it's week 2 of the season and they're load managing one of their star players right now.
Which is what could happen because the Clippers played last night. So I think that's why they're looking at being 6.5-point dogs against the Lakers in this game. Because I'll just put it out there. If even without James Harden, if Kawhi and Paul George and these guys are available, what is Kawhi's health status right now? Somebody bring me up to speed on this. Let me just double check on this.
Kawhi's health status is always like a Facebook profile update. It's complicated.
Yeah, pretty much, right? You just never know. I saw somebody tweet out the other day, a couple days ago, the Clippers trade for James Harden. Somebody had video of Kawhi at like a strip club. I was just like, this is not going to end. This is not going to end very well. But the Clippers have absolutely dominated the Los Angeles Lakers. Like just looking, they've won at least their last 10. And I think it goes back even further than that.
What?
Oh, yeah, man. That's why I'm like, I don't understand this line on the Clippers right now because they have won. It's like I'm looking at their last 10. They've won their last 10, but I think this stretches back even further. Oh. Here's an injury report. Let's see here. Terrence Mann, yeah, he's been dealing with an ankle. But outside of that, it looks like the rest of them are good to go. So, I mean, I know it's back-to-backs, but you can get the Clippers as 6.5-point dogs at -104. And if you like them to continue their dominance of the Lakers, the money line's plus 205. I'm a Lakers guy, but they've been owned by the Clippers. Like, they just can't beat the Clippers right now. So I think there's some value there.
This is just a reaction to the Harden trade. Everywhere Harden goes, things implode. They're expecting an implosion in game 1. And now they're 6.5-point dogs against the Lakers. Shout out to Marshall in chat. He's got Scotty Barnes over 17 points tonight. The Raptors are taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. I see Kubet's got it at 18 at plus 100. Maybe I'll ride with you on that one. I always like a nice little sprinkle from somebody in the chat for the game. And the Raptors had that nice win early on. They've lost a few in a row. They had that ugly game against the Portland Trailblazers at home where they lost by 8 earlier this week. Listen, in Milwaukee, it's a very, very tough place to win, but somebody's got to get some points. I don't mind Scotty Barnes. He's probably my favorite guy on the Raptors to jump on. I do like that Jacob Poeltl, at center. He's a very versatile guy, and his point totals have been pretty low. What is it for tonight? 8.5, -130 to the over. But as I say, Marshall, I think I'm going to ride with you on Scotty Barnes tonight. I'll take the extra point. Let's see if he can pop 20 in against Giannis and the Bucks and get us an even money winner.
By the way, the Lock Shop Partner Parlay is now up. One more time, that's Dallas Moneyline, Colorado Regulation, Sabres Moneyline tonight, and it's plus 575. You can get that in the exclusives tab right now over at CoolBet. You know what else you see when you look on that left side? CFL playoff lines. CFL playoff lines are now out. These weren't out yesterday, or at least during the Lock Shop yesterday because I looked to it. I'm a league guy, obviously. Let me throw on the CFL lid here as we dive into this. I cheer for good football, and I think we'll probably see some good football this week. The Ticats are 3.5-point dogs going into Montreal, where Montreal has only lost to BC, Toronto, and Winnipeg this year. They've beaten everybody else. And then Calgary, 6.5-point road dogs going into BC. Interesting to see where these half points are, Hus. You're getting the extra half point with the Ticats. You're missing out on it with the Calgary Stampeders to push that thing to a touchdown. The total in the Ticats Alouettes game is at 48. The total in the Stampeders Lions game is at 50. Any early thoughts here? We'll do our CFL official playoff picks a little bit later in the week. But any early thoughts on these lines and where they may possibly end up?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised that listen, I think if there's movement, it'll be like a half point either way. Like, I don't think we're going to see an avalanche on one side of these games, to be honest. When you think about what Calgary did to BC just a couple weeks ago and their running game, I think that if anything, we might see that get down to 6 or potentially even 5.5. Now, we're living in the moment because I think if you look at the body of work for the regular season, there's no comparison. The BC Lions have been way better than Calgary. But, fortunately for the Stampeders, what happened in July or August doesn't mean a damn thing right now when these teams are going out. Now, they would have loved it to maybe be outside, to be some, but BC's earned the home field in this game. I do wonder how BC handles their the Calgary running game. I mean, that is, I think, it took a while for them to figure it out. But you look at the interior of that Calgary line, the running backs that they have, and the fact that I don't think they can really count on Jake Mayer to out-duel, go toe-to-toe with Vernon Adams or most other.
They got to establish a running attack in this football game, buddy.
I mean, that is the path to victory, for them. Are you doing that game?
I am doing that game, yeah. I fly to Vancouver. What's today? Wednesday? Fly to Vancouver Friday, late Friday afternoon.
Beautiful,
so, yeah.
Beautiful.
No, it should be a good one. You make a good point. Like Calgary does two things really well. One, when they want to run the ball, they can run the ball and control it. And two, their front seven is excellent. Like the front seven should probably cause some issues for Vernon Adams, who's been banged up at times throughout the year. Mike Rhodes is having a phenomenal season so far. Hauser's been great. And then you've got this 1-2 punch with Mike Alway, who finished with the third most tackles in the history of the CFL this season. And Cam Judge, who put up the type of season that would probably win you most outstanding Canadian most other years. And then you get Dozier, who they play with them, and that linebacking core can cause some major issues. So I don't know if it's a recipe for success from an upset perspective, but I do think it's a recipe to keep the game relatively close into the fourth quarter, and then you kind of ride it out from there, right?
Yeah, to me, this game goes in one of two ways. Either BC just looks like the BC we saw through most of the season. Yeah, and gets up early. Because if they get up early, I think that's curtains. Like, I don't think Calgary has that club in their bag to have a big rally, to turn it into an air game. I mean, it's basically Reggie Begelton and a bunch of guys catching passes right now for Calgary. So, and then the other one is that Calgary has a strong, like if Calgary wins, like the under in this game, like if you think Calgary's going to be, because I think it'll be more ball control, more field position, defense, running the football, low event football, if you will. BC's looking at the other end on that. So it's either, I think, going to be BC by a lot or Calgary and BC in a real tight game that could go either way. I think at this point, my early lean might be to Calgary, and that's maybe just so I can hear you call a close playoff game and get all fired up. It'll be good for the fans. As far as the East game goes, and I mean, I will fully admit, I mean, I love the CFL. I watch a ton of the games, but I've watched pretty much every West game this year. I've skipped out on a lot of Ticats and Alouettes games, and I didn't see a lot of their game last week, although I saw the end of it, and I know that it was really close. But I don't know how much we can take from that game because it didn't mean anything. It is interesting that Hamilton's going to be going into this game planning to play both BLM and Matthew Schultz, which is sort of a strange way to approach a playoff game. I'm not sure whether that plan continues if one guy plays really well or one guy plays really poorly. And then Montreal has been pretty solid all year long. They are at home. Cody Fajardo does have playoff experience right now. This is a really tough game for me right now. I think the line's exactly where it should be. The big question is, can Montreal establish that big lead and sort of be in a comfortable position in the fourth quarter? Or is this going to come right down to it, much like the game last week did, although in very different circumstances?
Yeah, I think I like this plus 3.5 for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Ticats have been better in the second half of the season. I did a game in which they did run both Bo and Schultz, and it seemed to work just fine. So we'll see how that plays out. Cody Fajardo still looks like he has to put 150% into every single throw that he makes. And I think the Ticats have a secondary that might be able to take advantage of that a little bit. So I would very much be on a Fajardo interception once we get some player props on this game. But I think my play here, and I've already kind of locked it in early in the week just for now, but just a quick little one. Ticats plus 3.5, and then the BC Lions in the money line plus 154. And that's not a bad number to get in on those two games. Should we flip over to the NFL? Take a quick rip at some lines that might jump off the page there, Hus? Or you got anything left on the CFL semis here?
Yeah, no, that'll be great. I'll kind of dive into these a little bit more, and we can kind of lock those in tomorrow or Friday. Are you going to be here on Friday?
Friday, yeah, because I'm not flying out till, I don't think I'm leaving till like 6 or something. So I'll be here full day Friday. Yeah.
Perfect. So we can kind of get in. We can maybe finalize. It'll be a big show. We'll do our best bets for the NFL. We can lock in and finalize those picks for the Canadian Football League. But yeah, like the Thursday nighter. How many weeks in a row have the Steelers been involved in a game with a 2 or 2.5 point spread?
Pretty much every week.
Every week. And I'm really looking forward to this game now. Because of Will Levis. I mean, Will Levis looked amazing last week. DeAndre Hopkins had his hat trick. Levis goes in his first game, throws 4 touchdown passes. Now, listen, he's going to be doing it against a much more difficult challenge. Although Minkah Fitzpatrick's out, and that's a huge part of the Pittsburgh secondary in this game. The one thing that I love about Levis, I don't know if you saw much of that game. His passes are moonshots. I mean, they reminded me of Aaron Rodgers' Hail Marys that go like forever up in the air and then come down. Like, I haven't seen a guy get that much air on a ball in a long time. To me, this is going to be a couple things. Can Pittsburgh get into the backfield? That's one thing that they do very well, led by TJ Watt. And I think that is going to be imperative for them to, first of all, stop the run and not give Will Levis time to properly, read the field, make his decisions, and deliver the football. But listen, if we'd been talking about this game 1 week ago, it would have been Pittsburgh auto bet, no problem, at home, terrible towels, Tennessee stinks, they're moving on to next season. I'm not sure that didn't change pretty significantly with the performance of the rookie quarterback last week. So this is going to be this will be a tougher pick than I expected when we make them tomorrow.
All right, let's take a quick look at everything else we got going on. Did that Chiefs-Dolphins game not open at 2.5?
Yep. That's down to 1.5 right now. So it did seem a little big. I mean, neutral field, 6-2 teams. I mean, I think that was a lot. There's 2 things on that. People just completely overlooking last week, and it was a brutal performance by the Chiefs. Mahomes was sick. The receivers couldn't catch. They were putting the football on the ground. The defense was good, though. And this is going to be the biggest test for the Chiefs defense this year playing against Miami. But, in what will be, I'm sure, a pro-Chiefs crowd in Frankfurt just because of the championships and the star power of that team. But, I mean, this isn't going to be like there's not going to be any legitimate home field advantage in this game. So on a neutral field, you want to give the champs a point or a 1.5. I think it probably makes sense. But this is basically a pick 'em, if you ask me, between these 2 teams, Dusty. You make the pick on who you think is going to win this game. I mean, the point spread, whether it's 2, 2.5, 1, 1.5, almost irrelevant.
This is one I kind of just want to sit back and watch. I'm going to have things everywhere else. I just want to sit back and watch this football game.
7:30 a.m. for you early risers out in Edmonton.
I'll be on the way to the airport in Vancouver at that time, so that's not gonna work for me. Richard says, "Hey, how about the Raiders benching Jimmy G? They save for the rest of the season. We'll see. Still a tire fire in Vegas." As we haven't got to that yet. Late last night, they announced that with 4 years plus the rest of this year remaining on his contract, he was hired in 2022 to a 6-year deal. It is now 2023. And he's already out. It's rather remarkable here. But Josh McDaniels out. The general manager out. I guess you should have just kept Derek Carr. Maybe they didn't like the way that they went to Jimmy Garoppolo. Now Garoppolo benched. Things can't get any worse here right now, can they?
Well, they could, I guess, get worse, and they might on the field for the next little bit. I think Antonio Pierce, their linebackers coach, is getting promoted to be the head coach going forward. And they got the Giants on the weekend, and Danny Dimes is coming back. It was hilarious that it was like a late night Schefter bomb at like midnight or so my time. And like, oh, the Raiders have cleaned house. Well, in a lot of ways, and again, I think everyone knows my biases when it comes to the AFC West, but Josh McDaniels was the perfect clown to be behind the wheel of the clown car that is the Las Vegas Raiders. So from my perspective, I would have loved to see him stay there longer because they were not going to be beating anybody under that management right now. A funny side story from this, and PFT commenter from Pardon My Take, he he sometimes will have some fun with people, and he after this happened, he tweeted this out. Absolutely unreal story in The Athletic Premium Plus instant inbox about why McDaniels got fired. So if there's no Athletic Premium Plus instant inbox. So but this is what he said. Apparently, the last straw when McDaniels, who is well known around league circles, is a guy who goes all out for Halloween, came to the Raiders facility dressed as Mark Davis the day after losing to the Lions on Monday Night Football. Davis seemed to take it in stride at first. He appeared to laugh and even ordered his now trademark P.F. Chang's lunch delivered to Coach McDaniels to complete the look. After the two had eaten, Davis suggested McDaniels read his fortune cookie, which read, "You're fired, hotshot," according to multiple sources who viewed the dessert. And sure enough, there's been some people that fell for that hook, line, and sinker that are now retweeting that going, can you believe the way McDaniels got fired? So some creative internet trolling from PFT there. But the Raiders are an absolute mess. What's the line? What's the line in that game? Have they taken it off the board or still there? There you go. The Raiders are still favorites over the Giants at 1.5 points for this game on the weekend. Count me in for NYG on the money line at plus 103. You can lock that in. I will not be jumping off that island going into this weekend.
I know you got Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up, Hus. I'll get to the Fantasy Football 5 in a second. But World Series, Texas Rangers are 10-0 on the road. They have one chance here with the soothing sounds of Creed guiding them to a World Series championship. They could win tonight and finish the playoffs 11-0 on the road, capping a 5-game World Series. This is a straight-up pick on both teams right now, sitting at minus 106. Diamondbacks got another life in them still?
Well, I'd love to say yes. I have been more often than not, with the exception of the ALCS and Houston's comebacks, I have been getting killed by the Rangers all along. You've got Eovaldi on the hill against Zach Gallen. Very similar pitching props for both of those guys. Certainly when it comes to strikeouts, earned runs. This, I guess, should be a pick'em. Maybe I'll go with Texas because being on the wrong side of it, that way at least we'll get a couple more games.
Yeah.
But let's just say it will be a very small play if I do it. But, they're right there. It sort of seems like this series might be on the verge of being put out of its misery. So I think if I had to play on one side, I've been kind of on the D-backs the last couple games at home, thinking that they could make the most of that split they got early on. I'm not even sure this series gets back to Texas. So I think I'll probably ride Eovaldi and the Rangers and their momentum to get this thing done tonight and pop the bottles.
It's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, buddy.
We actually got a really good show today. Your pal DVD, Derek Van Diest, is going to jump on. Had a chance to hang out with him and Tommy a couple of weeks ago when I was in Edmonton and you were in Winnipeg. So he, of course, covers all 4 Western Canadian teams for NHL.com. So we'll kind of take a trip around the West. Former NHLer JP Vijay is going to pop on with a real in-depth look into the Jets so far this season and the struggling Winnipeg power play, and Scotty Billick from the Winnipeg Sun as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the punishment to the Ottawa Senators and a little bit of CFL playoff talk as well as the Bombers enjoy a few days off and then get back to practice, getting ready for the West Final. Looking forward to the Fantasy Football 5. Lots going on right now with all those QB injuries on the weekend. So we'll stay tuned for that, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow in the Lock Shop. Pay attention, folks. Later on this afternoon, that red hot daily pick's going to be coming out on the Coolbet social. So give them a follow at Coolbet Canada, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and hopefully we can make it 8 in a row tonight.
See you tomorrow, buddy.
Later, dude.
All right, let's get into it. It's the Fantasy Football 5 brought to you by Century Casino. If you want to watch Will Levis take on the Steelers, join Lieutenant Eric, Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge for Thursday night football and Monday night football as well. They also are qualifying for a trip every Monday, Sunday, and Thursday. Get yourself into a draw for a chance to go see the Browns and the Rams play in Los Angeles. All right, I've had a few people slide into the DMs here. I got a few trade suggestions rolling in. I'll try to give you some help with that. If you are listening live right now, 780-218-9999. Any late waiver wire questions you may have, any trades that you got going down right now. Matty Iwanek is sitting over there. Who'd you end up claiming this week? Did you get Levis? I saw that. I'm number one on the waiver wire order now.
Not.
So
yeah,
I am now.
I held it on for all these because I never jump in on waivers.
Yeah,
I
me
always
neither
wait till
this
after. But I'd been waiting. Tannehill was my backup quarterback to Justin Fields. Both were hurt.
Okay.
So I was playing around with quarterbacks, and then I was waiting. And then the only reason I didn't take up Levis last week and I took Walker was everything was the reason that there might be splits. And I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, with Tannehill coming back, everything about
so I was like, I don't know. So I went with Walker to have it legit. And then Levis is like, oh, he's playing well. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll have him. I also have Tannehill. So whoever's the starting quarterback with the Titans, I got someone. And then when Fields is back ready to go, I'm ready.
That's not bad. Levis should be able to get you through.
You're trying to get a trade with me, but no.
Well, look, I offered you Gardner Minshew at a pretty reasonable price. I thought maybe you'd want to hop on that, but no, it was a nice pickup. All right, 780-218-9999, or in the nasty chat if you have any fantasy football questions, we can look after those as well. I do want to slide over. There's a dynasty question that I had roll in. Where is it? Yeah, this is from Gordo. I'm going to just reply to Gordo here quickly and say, mention it, broke this down on the Fantasy Football 5 today, and you can go check that out. Here's his question. Thoughts on this trade in a Superflex league? I give up Chase and Gabe Davis for Alvin Kamara, Dobbs, and Ridley. I also have Etienne, Chuba Hubbard, Charbonnet. So not much at RB. For wide receivers, I also have A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, Rashee Rice. I'm weak at quarterback with an injured Fields, Jones, and Pickett. I'm hoping to pick up Levis as well. Matty Iwanek play there and picking up Levis. I don't know if it's worth swapping a wide receiver 1 for an RB 1 or save it and trade for a quarterback. This is interesting. I have a hard time moving Chase. Now, Kamara, let me bring up Kamara's game log because Kamara's kind of come back in and sort of picked up right where he left off, right? So let me bring up Kamara's game log, and I'm going to bring up some rest of season PPR rankings, and we'll dive into that a little bit. The Dobbs thing, I know in a super flex, and you're obviously banged up at quarterback, you need a quarterback desperately. Alvin Kamara. So if you're moving out Chase, you're bringing in Kamara, who's gone off in the 5 games that he has played. Only had 11 attempts in week 4, 8.4 points. That's standard scoring. Let me just flip this over to PPR. 11. Then he had 14 targets, so 21.4 points, 18.7 points, 17 point. Man, Kamara's looking like a league winner right now, isn't he? Just so heavily involved in the passing game there. I mean, if you really need a quarterback, Kamara and Ridley. Is this, man, I wish Gordo was listening or watching right now. I'd love to know if this is a dynasty league. But if you're rolling out Travis Etienne and Alvin Kamara, and they both stay healthy for the rest of the season, that's pretty good. Dobbs should be okay-ish. Calvin Ridley, I still want more from. I've got a couple Ridley, Trevor Lawrence stacks. Hasn't been great for me so far. I think I might actually pull the trigger on this now that I've dove into it a little bit. Kamara, Dobbs, and Ridley for Chase and Davis. You could use the running back help too, and you get your quarterback. And Ridley's going to have some games along the way. Pull the trigger. Let's do it. Pull the trigger on that one. Sometimes you just got to step out and make a deal, right? So we got that going for us. Chris says, I ended up with both Levis and Howell on the wire this week. Who should I start? Well, we talked about this yesterday, I do believe, right? Didn't you have a third quarterback that you were looking at? I'm pretty sure that's a conversation that we had yesterday on the Fantasy Football 5. And did I not have Levis in the middle of those three rankings? I think. Howell's at New England this week. Levis is at Pitt. I'd go Howell. I'd start Howell this week. A little bit more to work with there right now. I don't want to say the book's still out on Levis, but the book's still out on both of them, actually. But I would, I'd go Howell. I'd start Howell this week in that one. Got Dobbs, but he isn't starting. Who is going to start this week for Minnesota then if Dobbs not starting? I didn't even see that. Let us know. 780-218-9999, or, of course, in the Nasty Chat every single day with the Fantasy Football 5. That Kyle Pitts offer that I had is no longer on the board. It was taken off. I don't know if a guy went out and traded and got another tight end. So I have moved up to the top spot on the waiver wire. I'm like Maddie in that league that we're in together, that 16-person league. I never really put in waiver claims. I just wait and see what's left. But maybe I'm in a spot here where next week I have to maybe use my top waiver wire claim. We'll see how it plays out. The waiver wire in this league is just so weak. It's a 16-team league. Our benches are, 9 deep? So there's nobody out there. So here are players available right now in the Rusty Truck Fantasy Football League. Toon, Walker, who Maddie just dropped, Lazard, Austin in Pittsburgh, Paris Campbell, Wilson, Robinson in Pittsburgh, Rashad Bateman. What a bust Bateman's been. Nicole Hardman, Slayton. There's not many out there right now. So it's tough to really do anything with the waiver wire in that league. It's tough being in these deeper leagues, man. The waiver wire, everybody gets excited about it, but there's just very rarely. Like in that league, you might get throughout the entire season on your waiver wire claims, you might get one guy that you could start down the stretch. And that is mostly simply due to injuries and nothing else. So a little frustrating from that perspective, but what are you going to do? Monday nighters, Thursday nighters, Lieutenant Eric. There's only one place to be. Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, Fort Road. That is where you can find him and get in the mix. They got the square board going. Of course, Philly's brisket night, or Thursday's brisket night, and you can go get your hands on that and go down, hang out with Lieutenant Eric and some of his regular ragtake group of nasties that are down there with him on Monday and Thursday nights, and have a great chance to get in the mix to win a possible trip to go see the Rams and the Browns in Los Angeles later this season. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football 5. Slide into my DMs anytime you want on Twitter at NielsenTSN at 1260. So got to update that bad boy. And we can get to some of those as we work our way through the Fantasy Football 5 here for the rest of the Fantasy Football season. On the way, make sure autoplay is turned on. We are going to dive into the oil stream. Sam Gagner back with the Edmonton Oilers. How does he help the bottom six? Can anything help the bottom six right now? We will get into that. And maybe some time for Tommy and I to vent on everything that happened today on the Edmonton Sports Talk Draft as well. That's all coming up on the Oil Stream. Do not go anywhere. Thank you for checking out the Lock Shop and the Fantasy Football 5.